Hello, my name is Len Berg, coming to you from the Soul Therapy Psycho-Spiritual Coaching and Consultation Group, which I started in Facebook. I'll be posting videos from time to time dealing with the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual food that sustains life. We begin today with an interview with a longtime friend of mine, Dr. Aris Latham. He is renowned around the world as the Sunfired Gourmet. That is, he's a live food scientist, chef, linguist, and educator. And our topic today is health and healing through Sunfired Foods. But first, let's begin with a little background on Dr. Latham. Brother Aris is a native of Panama and is considered to be the father of gourmet ethical raw foods cuisine in America. He started Sunfired Foods, a live food company, in 1979 in Harlem, New York. I remember vividly when Dr. Aris rolled into Harlem in his white truck with his wife and daughter and a truck full of organic food. And so it started. In the years since, he has trained thousands of raw food chefs and added innumerable recipes to his repertoire. Aris is a direct descendant of an African Caribbean family of culinary griots and he's become well renowned as a crusader in the area of wholesome foods. His linguistic and culinary interests have been shared with many diverse people throughout Africa, Asia, the Americas, Australia, the Caribbean, and Europe. Dr. Latham has been a vegetarian for 48 years and has eaten Sunfired Foods exclusively for the past 42 years. He was voted one of the top vegetarian chefs in the United States by Vegetarian Times Magazine and has been featured in Essence Magazine, Jamaican Eats, and Vegetarian Gourmet Magazine, among other publications around the world. And on TV, he's been featured in TV's Black Entertainment Television Network, that's BET, the Food Network, Temple University Medical School Forum, Organic Food Producers Association of North America, Family Channel's Body by Jake, CNBC, Alive and Wellness, ABC, Eyewitness News, CBS News, and Jamaica's CVM TV, among other media around the world. To begin with, in the brief time that we have together today, I'd like to focus on the impact of Sunfired Foods on your mind, body, and spiritual development. As a soul therapist myself, I'm very concerned with how so many problems in the world today are rooted in the forces of ego mind dominating the planet. I call it mind over soul instead of soul over mind. In my work and research, it seems that there is a direct relationship between disease, stress, and alienation, and people's lifestyle and diet. So my first question for Dr. Latham is, in your experience, what are Sunfired Foods, and how can eating them help to prevent or treat the so-called diseases of civilization: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, stress, and what I call psychosocial pathology?
Okay, well, wow, you got me set up here. Well, sun-fired food. Actually, you see me sitting here right now. I didn't want to get too greedy, so I had to move out of the direct ray of the sun because the primary food for human consumption is actually sunshine. We were born to eat the sun. But since it's so far away and so potent, we can't just jump up and grab a bite of it because we would be radiated completely on the zap. But nature had it all worked out perfectly. So our sun is filtered. It is condensed. It is packaged. So ideal. I'm living in the tropics right now. I need a good dose of sunshine every day, especially first thing in the morning, that first morning sun. Because it's food. And our food. Well, like I said, the sun is really the chef. First of all, let's get this clear. There's only one chef on this planet, cooks for everybody, completely, totally. Without the sun, there's no food. So after the sun being our primary food, for me, the secondary food is obviously oxygen. We cannot live without it. Maybe a few split seconds without it, and we're out of here. So I love being out. Actually, I live outdoor. My house, even though it has doors and windows and walls, all the doors, all the windows are always open. I'm sucking up all the oxygen I can breathe. But of course, it has to be in a clean, pure environment that is, bedded in nature. Lots of trees, because our relationship with the universe is via the trees. We are connected to the plant force, to the plant world. So, and then for me, the next level of it, of nutrition, is obviously water, moisture, liquid. So with those three elements, we can't go wrong. But we know that we have to be careful how we ingest these elements. Even a simple thing as we look at it as water, just turning water and getting it out the tap, well, we all know that don't work either. But even just going to a stream, going to a spring and getting water from a spring, just like that, that water has inorganic minerals. So our relationship with the universe is via the trees. So the trees need to tap that water through their roots, through their leaves, and package it for us, whether it's in a fruit form, a vegetable form, you name it. But ideally, the plants, they're ionizers, they're alkalinizers, they're filters, they're distillers. They process this water and package it for us in a beautiful bunch of grapes, apples, watermelon. I mean, for goodness sake, the English folks, they try to be so correct. Watermelon, that's when you eating water. Watercress, it's right at the head of the spring where it filters the water that's coming out of the spring, and it's very bitter. It's very cleansing, very purifying. So anyway, on and on. There's so much I could share with you, but the point in question about sun-fired foods, sun-fired foods are foods that are cooked by the sun. For me, the growing period is the cooking process. So from the time say a cherry tree blossoms in Washington, D.C., till the time we have a fully ripe, juicy, black, sweet cherry, that entire period, or even before the blossoming, the entire year that it takes for that plant, for that tree to regenerate and produce us, great fruits, that is the cooking period. That is the cooking process.
It seems that in this period that the sun is doing its cooking, nature stores up certain energy in the food, especially the energy associated with oxygen. And it's well known that oxygen is a key factor today in the treatment of many life threatening diseases. And you find oxygen in the air, you imbibe it through the water, exercise, and in the foods we eat. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, this is one of our primary foods is oxygen. And when you when you bite into an apple, you get an oxygen burst right into your system completely. So when you cook foods, when you cook a tomato, when you cook a carrot, a beet, broccoli, you're actually destroying the oxygen content of that food. The same way you're cooking the sunshine out of the food, you're cooking that solar energy out of the food. And then, yes, of course, water, moisture, coming out of these foods. Again, the trees, the plants, the shrubs, they're filters. So that tomato juice that we enjoy, that we love, that is actually tomato water. I think people got confused because they used the word juice. You know?
What about the many pollutants in the atmosphere that are carried by the wind currents everywhere, even on sun-fired foods?
Oh, absolutely. It affects the quality of every single food, whether it's cooked raw or whatever. But those toxins remaining in your system becomes the issue. I mean, today we're invaded. So it's very difficult to avoid these things unless you're living, in a pristine forest, you know, particularly a rainforest or maybe even a snow forest, where the air is constantly being cleansed, naturally, and there's no need for any chemical sprays, pesticides, fertilizers, or anything of that nature. But the way the chemistry of the human body works is that it is capable of defending itself even against toxic pesticides, chemicals, and things like that But if the system has been corrupted or broken, then these things would tend to take over the body. So we cannot avoid bacteria, germs, viruses and these things. They're everywhere. They're in the air, they're in the atmosphere, they're right, you know, coming into our breath. But the thing is now we need to be careful not to be, a host for them.
Getting back to the sun, there are many people, especially our fair skinned friends, who are advised to stay out of the sun because it can cause cancer. How can such people profit as much from getting directly in the sun if this is true?
Skin cancer, the body developed cancerous cells, as basically mutated genes in order to defend the body against toxins that we have put into the body. So if the body is toxic and it produces these cancerous cells to basically process these toxins within itself, then those toxins come to the surface of the skin if you go hang out in the sunshine. So it's really what's already within you. The sun is just activating it and pulling it out of the cells, but then you're not sweating. You're not getting to the point where you're actually eliminating it. So you've really been avoiding the elimination confrontation. So with that toxins right there, lingering right at the close to the surface of the skin and not being released from the body, it basically just rots it out. It's eating.
Lots of people get skin problems of one kind or another. Is it not true that when the liver and kidneys may be not functioning efficiently, that the body will choose to eliminate waste through the skin?
Is the largest organ of elimination, you know. But if these toxins are bounded up in a way where they cannot penetrate and come through the skin, then they're going to rot right there, right on beneath the surface of the skin.
Could you speak a little bit more about the different kinds of sunfired foods and their impact on elimination of waste from the body?
Well, sun-fired foods, we're talking fruits, vegetables, uh, grains, and proteins, plant plant-based foods that have all of the nutrients that we require on a regular basis. And of course, they're high in moisture. Is that when they've been basically corrupted, then the body won't process them effectively. And just a simple form of corruption is just boiling them, just cooking them, just killing them. You're destroying the digestive enzymes that would allow these foods to break themselves down. So if they're not being processed effectively in the body, then the body accumulates them and store them in the form of waste, waste. And we may call it weight or whatever we might want to call it, but we're just basically stuffed up, full of uneliminated, unprocessed foods that have been backed up in our systems for years 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So bowel movements are very crucial. Actually, what you put out is more important than what you put in. So your bowel.
Well, apparently, some people may only move their bowels once or twice a week. Is this related to many of the ailments that people suffer today?
Absolutely. The colon basically is a cesspool waiting to be evacuated. But it is so, impacted with this waste matter. And of course we're not taking enough moisture. So this is where, foods like sun-fired foods, the high moisture fruits, the watermelons, oranges, grapes, strawberries, and things of this nature, along with the fiber that is based in these foods, help to come through that piping system and unclog it. It's a router.
Well, I've heard several healing practitioners say that it's best to eat the foods grown where you live, and that in fact there are herbs and foods that can help heal any disease where you live. Does this make sense to you?
Of course, I mean I am 100% with eating the foods grown in your area, and whatever foods that are not grown in your area, yeah, you avoid them. Living in New York City, where does rice grow anywhere near New York City? you know, does rice grow? A lot of those skeptics are eating big buckets of rice every day, So if you ascribe to that principle, then in the winter in New York, you should just be hibernating, eating berries and possibly apples. But the apples are all picked after the fall. And after the fall is September, October, November. So by the time winter gets here, there's no more apples out there. So all of them are being stored in cold storage. So I mean, is that natural? Did man have cold storage? Thousands of years ago to deal with these apples. So actually living in these temperate environment, we're actually living on a collision course with Mother Nature. And since the sun don't shine, I mean, look at the people who live at the extreme northern uh, North Pole. Eskimos. Look at what they don't have any plant foods available to them, and they're eating blubber. They're eating fat from marine foods. They're not even eating the vegetation up there because all of that is under ice. The vegetation, the sea vegetation that are coming out, the seaweed, it is under ice. So look at these people. They have the shortest life expectancy on the entire planet. So if you live
Speaking about foods that are suitable to eat in areas where it's cold or only short growing seasons, or like in the olden days out west before refrigeration, when there was no icebox or refrigerator to store the food, is it not true that fermenting of foods was a good way to store them and preserve the food value?
that is fine. Pickling and things of this nature. Absolutely. To preserve it. And it also actually enhance in many cases the nutritional quality of the food, the digestibility of it, and these foods increasing their digestive enzyme content. They help to digest other foods that these people may have available to them in the winter. The winter squashes, the pumpkins, and all of these types of things, or things that they have stored up in a dried form when during the harvest time of those other foods. So there's many things that human beings have been doing, to mitigate, these types of situations and to live in harmony with the universe. But today we have descended to a point where we're actually on an extremely fast track to the grave, talking about microwaving and irradiating, doing these types of things. And you haven't seen it all yet. They go to another level. Look at where they're taking plant-based food now. They're creating all kind of artificial, monstrous plant-based foods, just to say it's all about plant-based. But I think it's all about the profit. So all the big food manufacturers are getting into this now. We have been into this rhythm now. This has been a revolution. When I got into this in being in New York City in the 60s, 1967, 68, 69, on the college campus at Queensborough Community College, interfacing with the hippies, dealing with the Vietnam War movement, dealing with the Black Power movement. This was a revolution. And it was about, counterculture, counter the food culture that even back then we recognized that were weapons. So if we're not going to go to Vietnam to fight the rice war to get you to be the rice basket of the world, why should we in our community eat certain foods that we know are actually going to make us ill, going to make us sick? So this revolution has been in motion now for a good 50 years, and we see the results of it. The world is coming home. And I could see even the influence of Sunfired Foods on even the new U.S. FDA food guide. You know, yeah, we have to give Michelle Obama a big up for creating the My Plate concept. And in the My Plate concept, you see what she has put out there. 50% fruits and vegetables and 50% grains. She doesn't even say starch in the whole scheme. 50% grains and and protein. And she does not even.
Oh, getting back to food grown where you live, I've also heard it said that one of the ways that the diverse energies of different cultures around the world are shared to promote global unity is the export of foods from one country to another. What about that?
It's a great concept, aside from actually moving back to the tropics. Human beings originated in the tropics. So carbon footprints will not be as deep if we all come back home, come back to within the tropical belt region around the way we've been doing it. But it's a good solution for now. It'll get us through, because if the sun don't shine where you live, then you should just bring it in and eat it through your foods. Now,
Well, there are also many people who actually do choose to spend as much time as possible in the tropics to get the sun. Often all you can eat in these exclusive 4 and 5 star resorts. I understand that you're now located in Jamaica preparing food in one of these resorts.
now you're looking right now at the Sunfired Culinary Institute in my background. This is where I'm based. We are in Montego Bay, Jamaica. And when I turn around on the other side of the Sunfired Culinary Institute, you're seeing the Caribbean Sea. And I'm overlooking Half Moon Resort. Half Moon Resort, I have come here to this area to establish a restaurant in partnership with Half Moon Resort. Half Moon Resort is the primary resort in the entire Caribbean. It's completely 5 star, and they have jumped the gun. To have a 5 star resort on this planet that is now have a restaurant that is completely dedicated to sun-fired foods, to living food. The name of the restaurant is Ital Cafe, Ital Cafe, and it's housed within the Fern Tree Spa. The Fern Tree Spa is uh, in Half Moon Resort. Half Moon Resort is the resort that we are featuring the Sun-Fired Cuisine. We're featuring the Sun-Fired Cuisine. It's an all total 100% live food, plant-based restaurant that is catering to people who are coming into these types of environments these days, and they're asking like, I don't want the beef. Where's the gluten free? Where's the smoothie? Where's the green juice? This is what we're doing here with Half Moon Resort, but also here at the Sunfired Culinary Institute. We're receiving students on a regular basis for Sunfired Cuisine classes, seminars, lectures. We also receive tour tour groups that are coming from around the world to come in and basically just hang out with the man who has not eaten any cooked food.
Well, Brother Aris, many people have been told that you really can't stay healthy eating just live foods. What would you say to them?
I'm 72. I'll be 72 actually, July 24th of this year. And the last time I had a medical exam, which was August of 2000, to renew my license when I turned 70, I had to get this mental and physical, report that I'm in sound health, that you can trust me on the streets driving a car as a 70-year-old young guy here. So yeah, and the doctor certified that I'm in perfect health. And the only issue that showed up is that I have a vitamin B12 deficiency. And I say, yay, yeah, I have a vitamin B12 deficiency. Wow, what a blast. And then when I look up and I see what are the symptoms of having a vitamin B12 deficiency, and I see certain things about mental degeneration. At this age, borderline Alzheimer's and all of these things should be happening. My nervous system should be breaking down. And I'm like, but wait a minute, Harvard, I have a B12 deficiency, but I don't show any of the signs associated. Well, these charts and tests, well, first of all, a lot of how they arrive at to how much B12 an individual should consume is based on how much they excrete. So they've been testing excrements of individuals who eat a lot of beef, a lot of animal product, and the amount of B12 that they excrete is 95% of what they actually consume. So based on that, obviously they only utilize 5% of all that B12 they've been ingesting. They only utilize 5%. And we know that, the cows who do not eat any B12, they eat only grass. They're grazing in the grass from sunrise to sunset, and they're producing all of this tons of B12. Isn't it logical that if human beings ate certain amount of grass as well and graze in the sun, that we would be producing B12? Heck yes. Heck yes. my body as a live food, sun-fired food eater for all these years, and I'm not taking any B12 supplement, and I'm not eating any cooked foods. Eating cooked foods, even vegan or vegetarians that are eating cooked foods, their body produce a lot of unfriendly bacteria because a lot of this food doesn't get digested properly. It's not processed. It stays in the system and it ferments and it produces these unfriendly bacteria that makes it impossible for their intestinal system to produce B12.
Well, yes, Brother Aris, it goes without saying that all of the standards for health and diet and nutrition seem to be based upon a animal-based diet, and the whole science of actually recalibrating some of these charts and measures is still underway. But for those who are interested in transitioning into eating more live foods, what would you say is the minimum amount of live food that should be in the diet in order to maintain good health?
Well, the absolute bottom line is 20% live foods. And this is reflected in the work of the great German food engineers who developed, say, something like a hamburger. And when they slap that lettuce, tomato, onion, pickles, it's 20% live food with extra enzymes in the pickles is intended for you to help digest that dough and that meat. So hold the lettuce, hold the tomatoes, hold all that stuff. Just give it 1 pound of bareback. Then you're saying hold the digestion.
Well, it's been a very interesting talk, Brother Aris. How can people find out more about you? For our listeners, the spelling of your name is Aris. That's Aris Latham, Latham. Aris Latham. And I understand you have a website at sunfiredfoods.com. That's Sunfired foods.com, one word. And you're also on Facebook.
You can meet me on Facebook. Aris Latham is where you would find me, just on my personal page there on Facebook, where we can interact and also look for me on Instagram on just Aris underscore Latam. And just Google my name. Ask the robots where I'm at, and you can't miss me. But I look forward to sharing with you. I have tons of videos on YouTube, so I'm
Well, thank you, Aris, for this delicious meal you have delivered to us today. And thanks so much for sharing. We look forward to keeping track of you and the work that you're doing. It's been great talking to you. Peace and love.
my honor. Thank you.